Hi, and welcome to Quilting with Lori. My name is Lori Dickman, and today I'm going to be sharing with you week number 47 of my 52-week series of Scrappy blocks. Today's block is the Starlight block, a wonderful block. This is one where you could actually just use, every block could be a completely different colorway from your scrap stash. It would be a fabulous way to use up your scraps from your stash. But I do want to point out that in the PDF, which is attached in the description box below, make sure that you file it, save it, print it. But in there, you'll see the directions, which I'll be covering here in the video. But on the back, there is a diagram of a quilt. And it uses last week's block, which was the sailboat, and then, of course, this week, which is the Starlight block. And it makes just a really nice quilt, maybe for your cabin, for your home, for a child. You could make this quilt as large or as small as you choose to. So let's take a look at how this block is put together. A couple of things I want to point out. You'll notice that there are two PDFs attached. One PDF is the instructions that I'm going to be covering with you here today, and the second PDF is the templates. I'm actually going to be using some acrylic templates, that Tri-Rex templates, but if you don't have that template, you've got the templates in paper form here, and I'm going to show you how you can actually make your own templates using some template plastic. So make sure that you download and save and or print all of this. And then for those of you who are new to my channel and have not seen my video on how to get your scrap stash cut, sorted, organized, and ready to use to make beautiful quilts, I do have a video that I'm going to link below. It corresponds to my book on Speedy Solutions to Cut and Organize Your Scrap Stash. I also have a corresponding patterns book. Between the two books, you get all of the techniques that you need to know to get your entire scrap stash ready to go to make beautiful quilts. Plus, between these two books, you get a total of 17 scrappy patterns. And that will all be linked below in the description box. So check that out. And be sure to get both of the PDFs that you're going to need for this block. Now, let's take a look at how this block is going to go together. So here is the block. And you'll notice there are 4 units here that we're going to be using the Tri-Rex unit or your templates to create. And they include a triangle and then the wedges that will square this up. And these are going to be 4.5-inch units. And then when they are sewn into the quilt itself, the block and the quilt, they'll end up at 4 inches. So that's what the block looks like. You're going to need to pull 4 corner pieces here. And they're 4.5 inches, so I've pulled 4 of these purple, and in this case I used a light purple, and you can use whatever colors you want to. But I've got 4 of those, 4.5 inches. I have 5 4.5-inch yellows, a variety of yellows, and that's what I'm going to use for these 4 triangles and for the center block. And these are going to, the next block that I'm making here for you, it's going to be scrappier. The yellows are all different here. This one, all 4 yellows, or all 5 yellow pieces were the same. It's going to be scrappy here. And then I'm actually using the remainder of the 4.5-inch squares that I had used here. I had pulled 8 4.5-inch squares to cut these smaller triangles, the end pieces. You could also use 2.5-inch by 4.5-inch rectangles, or if you have 2.5-inch strips in your stash, just subcut them into 4.5-inch lengths, and then you can use that to cut your templates from. And I'll show all of this to you here in a minute. But I'm going to use the remainder of these, and that's how I'm going to cut mine. And there was a total of 8 of these. Originally, I pulled 8 4.5-inch squares. And for this block, I've already cut these, and now I'm going to cut the remainders here. Now, let's take a look at the templates real quick. So if you look at the paper here, you'll see there is a wedge, or the triangle itself, or the wedge, and there are these 2 end units, and basically they're reverse of one another. And that will just help to square up this unit here. So you can either trace these onto template plastic, and you can buy this template plastic at your favorite quilt shop, online, Hobby Lobby, Joann Fabrics, just all over. You can usually get these for about, $2, $3 a sheet. And as you can see, I've already used this for some other applique purposes, but this is a great product to be able to trace. You want to trace with a pen of some sort or a marker. And you'll want to trace your templates on the cutting line, which is the light dotted line on your template. Let me show that to you. So the dark line will be the sewing line, and then the outside dotted line is the line that you'll be cutting on. So make sure when you trace that you use the outside dotted line to trace. So you want to trace those 3 units. And if you have a Tri-Rex set, then you don't even have to worry about tracing the templates, because you have exactly what you need here with this Tri-Rex set. This is the wedge, and you're going to use the 4.5 inch section of it from that line up, and this is the end piece, and you'll use from the 4.5 inch section up. So if you'll notice, this wedge, or the end piece, matches that beautifully, and this one matches, whoops, I guess I have to go this way, 4.5 inches, there we go. So if you have the Tri-Rex set, use it. It'll make things easier for you. You don't have to worry about creating the templates from the plastic. The one thing I did want to mention, I think I forgot to mention, that on this end piece for the Tri-Rex set, you will flip this so you have the reverse. Just like we got a reverse end piece here, you're going to have to cut 4 of them in this direction, and you'll reverse it and cut 4 this way. And I'll show you that here in just a minute. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this yellow aside. This is a 4.5 inch yellow. He's going to be my center, so I'm going to leave him off to the side. And from these 4 yellows, these are 4.5 inch yellows, I am going to cut. I should probably use this rotating mat. This will make things simpler here. I am going to cut my template, and I'm going to lay this on the 4.5 inch line at the bottom, and making sure that it's completely level down there. Each side peeks off each section here on the sides, and that's okay. That is just naturally removing part of the dog ears there, so that's okay. It's going to just make sure that each side looks even there, and make sure that line at the 4.5 inch line matches up beautifully. The 4.5 inch line matches up beautifully there, and then I can simply cut. If you have traced this template onto the plastic, you would simply place your plastic template on here, this film, and you would draw around that on each of these, and then you would use a ruler to cut. I would never cut around this plastic. So let's say you've got your template drawn on here, and then you place it on here. You don't want to cut around this flimsy template plastic, or you will distort it, and then your pieces are not going to go together well. So trace your templates onto the template plastic, cut them out, and then trace them onto the fabric. And then use a ruler, move the plastic template away, use a ruler, and cut on those lines that you've drawn. And since I have the Tri-Rex set, I'm going to line up my 4.5 inch line here. It's lined up there. Locate my rotary cutter here. And I'm simply going to, oops. I've got all 4 of them here. I've got to make sure I press hard enough. I didn't press as hard as I should have. All right, there we go. So these are the leftovers. I'm going to put these in my crumb bin. And here I have all 4 of my triangle templates. So they're all cut and ready to go. And what is nice about the fact that the ends of the templates fell off the end of the square, I have some dog ears that have already been removed, and then of course the top dog ear is already removed. So these are ready to go. And now I'm going to take these lavender ones. These are the remaining blocks from the first block that I made, and from these I am going to cut my wings, or the edges. And again, I'm going to line up the template, the Tri-Rex template, or your plastic template, whichever. You're gonna, if you use the plastic film, you're going to trace it on each of the fabrics and then use a ruler and cut. I am going to use a Tri-Rex, so I'm lining it up on the 4.5 inch line here. I think I'm going to come in a little bit and I'm going to square up that side here in just a second. Looks like my edges might be a little rough, so I'm going to, there, whoops. I missed a few. There we go. So there are 4 that are going this direction. And now for these, I must flip this ruler over. It has to flip upside down so that I am making 2 sections that are actually going to finish out the triangle and create straight edges. So I have flipped this over. It's now on the reverse, flipping that out, cutting there. Okay, here we go. Now I have a total of 4 B's and 4 C's. That's the name of the template on your sheet here. There's the B and the C right there. And here is the D, which is the center of it. And this is basically going to go inside just like that and finish them all out. So the first thing we're going to do is sew these units together, and then we're going to lay out the block and put the block together. When you cut this out, it really does go quickly. I'm just trying to show you so many different things here at the same time. So it seems like there's quite a bit to it, but there really isn't. Once you understand how to use either your Tri-Rex or your template plastic that you're going to be creating, it is a very simple process and you'll really enjoy it. So here I have my units all laid out and ready to go. What I like to do is sew this in assembly line fashion, and what I'm going to do is start on this side. I'm going to lay all of these along the side here, and the little point will come off the top there, and that's fine. You're going to see that it comes off the top, and down at the bottom here there is the flat edge that is going to line up with the bottom of the triangle. So I am simply going to start sewing at the top, 1/4 inch, and I'm going to start sewing and go all the way down, and I'm just going to grab the next one and do this in assembly line fashion and lay this, start sewing 1/4 inch, come on down, grab this one. So I'll have all 4 of them done. I will flip and press, and then I'll come back and do the other side. So let me quickly stitch this. I'll bring this back and show you what it looks like. So I have 4 of them sewn together and ready to go. And let me just show you here. Here's that one. I'm going to flip it open and press. And I'll do the same on the next one. I'll flip it open and press. Maybe I'll lay it sideways so you can see it better. So I've laid them here on the table. I'm afraid my camera might be causing a shadow, but hopefully you can see how I have sewn them. And I'm going to press them open. And once I have them pressed open, then I'm going to pull them apart here as well. I'll cut the thread that has webbed them together. And then I'm going to start on the opposite side. And again, just lay it right sides together, right sides together, right sides together, and right sides together. And this will lay much better once I've pressed it. I haven't pressed it yet. And then I will stitch from that line there to the edge, 1/4 inch, and all of these will be done in assembly line fashion. And then when that's done, we'll flip them open and we've got a completed unit. So let me first of all press these, and then I'll show you how I'm going to piece them together. I'm laying these lengthwise here so that you can see them better. But as you can see, these 4 now have been pressed. So we have the triangles and the end pieces. So that side has been squared up. Now we need to square up this side of the triangle, and we'll again just simply place the other end unit. It's the mirror image or the reverse, and we're placing that on the opposite side. I am again going to stitch 1/4 inch, down each side of that, and then I'm going to bring it back to the table so you can see it, and then I'll press it open. I've just finished sewing these, and you'll see that there must be 1/4 of an inch above this point on each one of them when you open it. If you don't have that 1/4 of an inch, then you need to remove the piece that you've sewn and readjust it so that you do have this 1/4 of an inch. That will allow this seam allowance here, which will connect this square to the next one, the row above it, and so forth. So make sure with each and every one of these that you do have your 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. And I'm going to go ahead and take this over to the iron and press them. I am just pressing everything out so they're being pressed toward the wings or the ends. That's how I'm going to press mine. And then I'm going to make sure that each and every one of these is squared up to 4.5 inches. I did use, with the Tri-Rex ruler, when I cut these out, it's really wonderful when you're using template rulers because your piecing can be much more accurate and because your cutting is more accurate, and therefore the blocks themselves tend to end up being the size they really should be. And mine have ended up being 4.5 inches. And that is what you need to square up everything to be, 4.5 inches for this block. I've laid out the block here in front of me. It's 3 rows of 3 squares. The pointed units are in the center here, and the points are facing the outside of the block. So make sure you don't get them turned around. You don't want your, I guess you could put it together like that if you wanted to, but if you're trying to create this starlight quilt, you want to make sure your points are facing the outside of the block. And then I've got the 4 squares on the outer corners, and then the yellow square in the center. And then I'm, again, just going to web this block together like I always do. What I'm going to do is start here with the center block laid over here. So 1/4 of an inch seam allowance, and keep it under the machine. Grab this, right sides together, continue on down, and the same with this. I'll have this all webbed together, and then with these 2 rows webbed together, as they're sewn in one long row there, then I'm going to come back and grab this last row and web it together. I always web my blocks as well as my quilts using this technique. It helps to keep everything in the proper order and sequence as well as in the proper orientation. So I'm going to go ahead and web the block together. I'll bring it back to the tabletop, and then you'll be able to see the finished product. So here's the second block. I've got 2 of these blocks ready to go. And when you press it, I pressed 2 of the rows toward the center. I pressed all of the sides of the triangles away toward the wings. So I have these 2 pressed toward the center here, and these in this direction. So find a layout as you're pressing where everything lays nicely for you. When it's a scrappy quilt, sometimes you kind of have to play with it to find the ways that it's really going to lay nicely and flat. You want to make sure that everything is laying flat. Love the block. This is a great one just by itself to use up your scrap stash. Every single block that I have here could be created using a different colorway from your scrap stash. That would make a beautiful quilt. And then you could even sash it with a uniform color just to bring some continuity to it if you prefer that. But what a wonderful block. And I hope that some of you will also use this block to create this sailboat and sunset starlight quilt that I show on the back of the PDF. I'd love to see those. So please be sure to post in my Facebook page, Quilting with Lori, group page, Scrap Up Your Stash. Love to see your blocks as well as your quilts. And again, don't forget to download both PDFs, which are attached, the instructions and the templates. If you have the Tri-Rex set, then you won't need to worry about the PDF of templates because you have what you need with the Tri-Rex set. And here is the other part to it. So wonderful way to make up your blocks. I love using template rulers. I love how they help us to cut accurately so that we can piece more accurately. Thank you so much for joining me on week number 47 and the Starlight block, a really fun one. Hope that you're enjoying the 52-week series as much as I am. Please don't forget to like and comment and hit the subscribe button. Please share these videos with those who may not know about my channel and would like to learn to quilt or learn to use their scrap stash. And don't forget to check out the link of the tutorial, the video tutorial that I have below on how to scrap up your stash. Until next time, happy quilting.